This is not a real Sherman tank. It's made of rubber and filled with air, one of many props used by a secret U.S. Army unit. Their job wasn't to fight the enemy, but to fool them completely. They were the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, better known as the Ghost Army. A unit of just over 100 men, handpicked for their creativity, their mission was to impersonate entire divisions, creating phantom forces on Europe's front lines. The strategy was called tactical deception. By creating the illusion of a massive force in one location, they could draw enemy units away from a real planned Allied attack somewhere else. Their battlefield was the enemy's imagination. Who were these phantom soldiers? They were recruited from art schools, advertising agencies, and design firms. Future fashion icon Bill Blass and renowned painter Ellsworth Kelly were among them, trading their canvases for a much larger, more dangerous one. Their primary tool was visual deception. The unit was equipped with hundreds of inflatable rubber decoys, tanks, jeeps, artillery, and even airplanes. From the air or a distance, they were indistinguishable from the real thing, creating an irresistible target. A 60-ton Sherman tank could be inflated by 4 men in just a few minutes. While they looked formidable, they were light enough to be lifted and moved by hand, allowing the Ghost Army to create a massive armored presence overnight. But an army isn't just seen, it's heard. The Ghost Army's sonic deception team used powerful speakers mounted on half-tracks to blast curated soundscapes. They could project the sounds of an entire armored division up to 15 miles away. These weren't generic sounds. The engineers had recorded audio of specific divisions during training exercises back in the States. They could perfectly mimic the unique sonic signature of a tank column assembling or infantry digging in for the night. The third pillar of their deception was radio. The unit mastered spoof radio, creating phony traffic between non-existent command posts. Morse code operators would mimic the distinct sending style of real operators from other units to make the chatter believable. Finally, there was the human element. Soldiers would drive to nearby towns wearing the wrong divisional patches, starting conversations in cafes and bars. They'd drop hints about a big upcoming attack, knowing that local spies would report everything they heard. Arriving in France just after D-Day, the Ghost Army was immediately put to the test. In one of their first major deceptions, Operation Elephant, they were tasked with covering the movement of the 2nd Armored Division toward the front. While the real division secretly moved out under cover of darkness, the Ghost Army moved in to take their place. They set up their inflatable tanks in the exact same positions the real ones had just vacated, maintaining the illusion of a static front. Their performance had to be perfect. They broadcast the sounds of tanks being serviced, soldiers shouting, and the everyday clatter of an armored division at rest. To any German listening posts, it sounded like business as usual. The deception worked. German reconnaissance reported the 2nd Armored Division as stationary, allowing the real unit to travel over 70 miles undetected to a critical staging area. The Ghost Army had successfully held the line with nothing but air and sound. This was just one of over 20 deceptions they would pull off. From holding thin spots in the line at the Battle of the Bulge to creating phantom port operations, the Ghost Army became masters of misdirection. Their greatest performance, however, came in March 1945 during Operation Viersen. 9th Army was preparing for a massive, dangerous assault across the Rhine River, the last major barrier into Germany. The Ghost Army's mission was to impersonate 2 entire divisions, the 30th and 79th Infantry, totaling some 30,000 men. Their goal was to convince the Germans that the crossing would happen 10 miles south of the real location. For days, they worked to create the illusion of a massive buildup. Over 600 inflatable vehicles were deployed. They even built a fake motor pool, a phony headquarters, and dummy anti-aircraft batteries to sell the story. Then came the sound. For 2 straight nights, the sonic trucks blasted a symphony of warfare. They played recordings of pontoon bridge construction, artillery placements, and the rumbling approach of thousands of troops, all directed at the German lines. To complete the picture, actors in military police uniforms directed non-existent convoys of trucks through nearby towns. They drove in loops, with soldiers changing helmets and insignia to make a few trucks seem like an endless column. German intelligence fell for it completely. Intercepted radio messages showed their high command frantically redirecting 2 panzer divisions and heavy artillery to counter the phantom invasion force, leaving the real crossing point dangerously exposed. As German shells began to rain down on the empty fields filled with rubber tanks, the real 9th Army began its crossing 10 miles to the north. The Ghost Army had become a giant, imaginary magnet for enemy fire. The real crossing was a stunning success. Instead of the thousands of casualties that were expected, the Ninth Army made it across the Rhine with fewer than 50. The Ghost Army's elaborate stage play had saved countless lives. They had fought in more than 20 operations and were estimated to have saved between 15,000 and 30,000 American lives. Their own casualties were astonishingly low, only 3 men killed and a handful wounded throughout their entire campaign. After the war, the unit was disbanded and its records were immediately classified. The soldiers were sworn to secrecy, unable to tell even their families what they had truly done. Their incredible story remained hidden for over 50 years. It wasn't until 1996 that the mission was declassified and the world finally learned about the Army of Artists. In 2022, the unit was awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, America's highest civilian honor, for their unique and vital contributions. Their legacy is a powerful reminder that warfare is not always about brute force. These men wielded creativity, imagination, and ingenuity as their primary weapons, turning artistry itself into a shield that protected their fellow soldiers. They were an army unlike any other. They never fired a shot in anger, yet their impact was felt across the entire Western Front. They were the Ghost Army, and they proved that the most powerful weapon of all can be a brilliantly executed idea.